Okay, so today is Thursday, September 17th, and this is week 4, and we are going to begin our lecture on shape. Okay? Shape is a very important aspect to design. It's a configured or delineated area on a format, created either partially or entirely by lines, outlines, contours, or color. So you can have lines that will create a shape. You can have areas of color that come together to create a shape. Okay? And there are 3 basic delineations of shape. You have the square, the triangle, and the circle. Those are the basics, and then you can add on and you create all the other different types of shapes from those. And then each of those geometric two-dimensional shapes has a corresponding volumetric shape, okay, or like a solid. So you have the cube, the pyramid, and the sphere, and every shape kind of comes from those 3. So shapes include closed shapes, which have like a full enclosed line, or an open shape that maybe kind of opens up and it may not have a clearly delineated space of closure. A representational shape, which is an accurate depiction of a shape. Okay, so maybe you have like a puzzle piece, for instance, in this example here. Or you have a non-objective or abstract shape. Those are shapes that don't necessarily correlate with what we imagine a specific object to be. Okay? Rigid and geometric, straight lines, parallel lines, think triangles, squares, okay? And then you have the curvilinear or organic shapes, which are more free-flowing curves. Think of clouds, shapes in that general kind of natural organic look. So you can see here how we have utilized different types of shapes that are representational, okay? But there's not a lot of information in there. But you don't need to have a lot of information in a shape in order to make it known what it is. So we know this is a woman standing with an umbrella, and here we have a bird flying, okay? So just as important are like as the figure or the positive shape, which can be either one of these or the skeleton, okay? So the positive figure in the foreground is usually the first thing that you notice in the piece. But just as important is also the shape in the negative space as well, okay? So you can see here, this is another example of negative space. So you could say that this puzzle piece here could be the subject, the actual shape in the foreground, the figure, and this could be the negative space. Or you could even look at it kind of vice versa, okay? And that's where negative space tends to be really important in your piece. Here are some paper cutout sculptures from a museum, and you can see how the figure, okay, this positive space, is nothing without its negative space. Without these cutouts, you're not going to have that contrast between the shape and the background that you see through it. So you can see how within this negative space, you can get some really interesting things where the eye can focus on. So as you guys start to create shapes in your assignments, you're going to look at your shapes, at your figure, but you're also going to start to think about how that is affecting the negative shapes in your pieces as well. Okay? So again, representational shape depicts a recognizable object from a known environment. Abstracted shapes are simple or complex exaggerations or distortions of objects and are used for stylistic distinction and or communication purposes. And non-objective shapes do not represent anything specific in the environment. So usually an abstracted shape is representing something, and a non-objective shape is just there for color, texture, to take up some space, okay, and add balance. Abstracted shapes are something that we're going to be focusing on for the next assignment, okay? Next is a very important aspect of design, and this is balance. Okay, so think about a scale with a fulcrum, and you have a big ball on this end and a little ball on this end. The balance is going to weigh where the heavier, larger ball is, right? So that is, in representational terms, what balance would be. But in design, you have visual weight, okay? And that's how the balance is kind of distributed. And the idea is that there is a gravitational force or an energy to these various objects that you place, and that attracts more attention with your eye, and that's what creates more visual weight. So that could skew the balance of the piece. So balance is when you have even distribution of weight on each side of a central axis, or in design, it's created by even distribution of weight amongst all of the elements. Okay, so and as you guys have probably noticed, I like to lecture barefoot because I'm in high heels all day. So if you think about visual weight, you can think about balance being the visual weight across the entire format or page, right? So that's a balanced visual weight. But if you were to take more of your visual elements and put them to one side, is that also becoming balanced? That's what you have to think about when it comes to visual weight. And in this case, even though we have all of the objects and the figures on one side of the page, it is balanced by the negative space of the piece, okay? So it's how that weight is distributed, taking into account the entire format, okay? So here are some different examples of types of balance. Horizontal symmetry, okay, how it's balanced horizontally across the page. Approximate horizontal symmetry, so you may not have complete representation, symmetrical objects on either side of the page, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be balanced. It's how it's laid out. So in this case, you have equal weight even though you have more objects on one side than the other. Radial symmetry is coming from the center of the page and out. And then asymmetry is kind of like what I was doing here, where you don't have perfect symmetrical balance and it might be weighted to the side. But you can see how these objects here are balanced by this little tiny square up there. Okay? Here's an example of a landscape. Okay? And you guys can kind of see how even though your eye tends to go here first to these rocks, the figures right here in the foreground, it's balanced by these big open areas of blue space with sky and ocean. Okay? So visual weight can be affected by many different things. Okay? One of those things is the density or the number of elements given in an area. So when you have a bunch of little things together, that tends to be heavier weight than maybe just one single object. Okay? Isolation and emphasis of an element in a composition. Okay? How something is isolated. So even though we have a large density of little gray squares here, this yellow car is isolated. So it tends to have more visual weight because it stands out from the crowd in terms of the color. So your eye goes here first. And that's how visual weight works. Like, where's your eye going to go to first? And then secondary, your eye kind of moves into this shape, okay? Because this has more weight than this white background, okay? And then you can see here the example of how the negative space in the background helps to balance out all those other elements. Position and placement is another way that you can add visual weight. So just like how we experience real gravitational force, for instance, we tend to think that things that are heavy at the bottom of a format tend to be heavier feeling, okay? That's if they also take into consideration color, texture, line, all that kind of stuff. But that's where placement, also the center of a page, if you put something smack dab in the dead center of your substrate or your page, your eye will go there straight forward, okay? That's where your eye is going to go. So sometimes that's something that you want to do. Other times you want the eye to flow around the entire piece because you want everyone to take in all of the rest of the design. If you just put your message smack dab here, but then you forget about these areas, okay? Or maybe you have other extraneous information, you might lose out on getting this other information to everybody else because this image right here in the center takes the brunt of the visual weight. So strategies for balancing a composition, characteristics and qualities of an element in determining the visual weight. So think about the orientation and the location of an element on the format, the size, whether it's figure, okay, or whether it's ground, meaning the background or the negative space. Things that are ground tend to be the first thing you notice. Negative space is a little bit more subtle, and as you guys design and you start to look at these things, you'll start to pay more attention to the negative space. Line, which we talked about in a previous lecture, how complex, how thick, the color. If it's a bright red color, bright pink, that's going to stand out. That's going to have more visual weight. If it's a thin line, it's going to have less visual weight than a big thick line. Okay. Texture, how dense or complex or the size of the area covered. So the type of texture, if you have a really soft texture, that's going to be one thing. But then if you have a texture like this, little dots in here or here, you can see how texture really grabs your attention. And you have to look at that area first and kind of play around between what is the most important object in the format, okay? Color is also very important. The hue, okay, the color it is. The saturation, how intense that color is, how true to its natural hue. The value, how light or dark, and then the temperature, how hot or cold does it feel. So if you have a red object that's on a blue background, that red object is going to probably catch the eye and have more visual weight than the blue background. That being said, you can probably use the two to balance each other out, okay? Shape that we talked about, again, the color, the complexity, how large it is, and type, same thing, okay? So all of these different things you have to think about when you're thinking about your balance. You can't just throw something onto a design and say, okay, well, this goes here, and this goes here, without taking into consideration, are they balancing each other out? And in the beginning, when you're starting to design, the best bet is to kind of listen to your intuition a little bit, but also remember all of these different characteristics and qualities and say, okay, I made that area of type yellow, I made this one red. Which one is standing out more? Are they balancing? Okay, this area of space is really little, so is this one, and I need some big bold color here to balance out the eye-catching smaller areas. You're going to have to really think through and process. And my recommendation is, as you're designing, step away from your computer for a little bit. You know, go for a walk, come back and look at it with fresh eyes and say, okay, is this balanced? If you have the ability, print it out, tack it up on your wall, walk away, whatever, the next morning, come back, take a look at it and say, does that look balanced to me? Okay. Those are the ways where you start to process visuals in a different way and you learn to see things in these different design principles that we're talking about. So here is a little piece of art that we were just looking at. But the idea is this balanced or is this chaotic? You know, what do you guys think when you look at this? Do you see a balance of the pieces, or do you think it's too chaotic and there is no balance?
The repetition of the three together helps it balance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's busy.
Yes, it is very busy. It is. But I think that it actually has a nice balance to it because nothing is particularly outweighing the other to make it feel like it's going to topple over in any area. You have areas of like more solid space in here, which help break up the areas of the major texture, and that kind of helps to distribute the weight a little bit around the piece. Here's a video that you guys can watch. It's a nice little representation on balance. And then here are some contemporary and traditional aesthetics of balance. So we're going to say that this is contemporary, right? You have these shapes. And this is essentially symmetrically balanced. So if you were to fold this piece down the middle, everything would kind of balance up. Fold it the other way, you have the balance, okay? And then in this case of a pattern, you have everything that's almost perfectly symmetrical down the fold of the page. But you can see here, when you start to mix things up, you don't have to have them perfectly symmetrical in order to make it balance. These shapes help balance out against this area of negative space. And then same here, these larger spaces, open shapes here, tend to balance out more of the tighter texture. Okay? Yeah.
There's an incredible exhibit at Museum of Art right now. That
Oh.
Moholy-Nagy stuff from his Bauhaus.
Oh, that would be
The entire exhibit is all about form and
balance,
shapes and balance, color, and so if you have time,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good one.
That sounds awesome. I actually don't have any plans this weekend, so that might be fun. And you guys too, go check out art museums, go see exhibits, and kind of get a feel for how stuff is done in design and in art, okay? All right, so that's the lecture. Any other questions about shape or balance? No? Okay. So this is your next assignment. Real to abstract. Dun, dun, dun. A lot of students find this assignment to be challenging because it is about letting go of what you see in an original photograph or advertisement and more about deconstructing it to its basic elements of shape and balance in the composition, okay? So what you guys are going to do for this assignment is you're going to pick out an ad or a photograph from a printed publication that has what you think is a good composition. Okay, so you want to look for visual interest, color, line. You also want to look for balance in the piece, okay? And then you're going to analyze that ad. You're going to say, okay, where is my eye starting? Okay, usually from the headline or the main picture, and then where is it going? Where are you ending up? Okay, sometimes it's the logo. It's the call to action that says call 1-800 or whatever, or visit our website to buy this product, or find us at your local retailer, okay? And then you're going to basically look at what elements are crucial for leading the eye through the page. So shape, line, color, contrast, direction and flow, okay? The arrangement of the type and the texture. So I want you to kind of jot all that down. You're going to rip out this ad, you're going to put it in your sketchbook, and you're going to write these notes down. You're going to analyze it, okay? I want you guys to get into that mode of looking at ads and looking at compositions. So write down what the composition is, briefly describe why you think the designer composed the elements and how it enhances the message of the advertisement, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to create thumbnail sketches in your journal of that ad layout, but you're going to do an abstraction of that ad, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to find your ad. Let's find something here. Okay, you're going to find your ad, and you're going to tack it up on the wall, and you're going to squint at it because it pulls out all of those little details, okay? So you're going to look at shade and value. Go ahead. You guys are far enough away, you probably don't have to squint. But you can start to see shade, value, areas of the composition, okay? But you can't really read the details. Kind of start with that. What is the basis of this design? What is the bare bones, the balance and the composition, okay, and the basic shapes without getting into the detail of what everything is? And you're going to make some thumbnail sketches, some compositions using just black and white and shades of gray. And you're going to make some decisions about the contrast and the tone. So in this case, nothing is really that dark except for this one circle. So you're going to really make sure as you're exaggerating that, maybe you use black, maybe use tones of gray to do everything else, and white for the center shape, okay? And then after you have done that, you're going to move into using color. So you can use colored pencils, crayons, markers, whatever you have, and you're going to try out different colors and textures. And the same thing is there where you want to pull the visual weight into the same elements that the ad does. So you're going to strip it down to some bare bones, and then you're going to start to add the color in these sketches, and you're going to do at least 6 variations that are fairly complete. And the reason why I want you to do them fairly complete in color is because then you're going to take that and you're going to translate it to an actual digital illustration, okay? You're going to work in the same format size as the ad. So if you rip an ad out of a magazine, and it has to be print, it cannot be from online, okay? If you rip it out, it's got to be the exact same size. And I want you to take into consideration the entire page or the entire ad. Don't just say, well, I don't like this corner, so I'm just not going to include it. That's the challenge. You have to include everything. And trust me, it can be difficult, okay? But it's also a really good exercise for you guys. So I do not want you to trace the ad, okay? I do not want you to scan your ad in and then trace it in Illustrator. I will know if you've done that, okay? What I want you to do, what I would prefer you to do, is to trace one of your color sketches that you've done. So you're going to do all these color sketches. You're going to get pretty tight with them, right? So you're going to do some fairly complete ones. One of those is going to be the one that's going to speak the most to you. scan that in, and you're going to trace it in Illustrator using the same technique that we learned last week where you trace over the koi or the lemon. You can do that same technique in Illustrator with your abstract piece. So from your compositions, you're going to turn this into a digital design, working in Illustrator. Create an abstract composition of all of the important elements that move the eye. As you play with colors and different ways of handling your abstract, save your files as consecutive versions. So collect your process. These versions will document your process as you move to your final composition. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. Let's see, which one do I like? So in the assignment page, I should add that it tells you right up here that you're going to do thumbnail analysis for 3 or more magazine ads. Okay, so make sure you pick 3. Then you're going to create 6 black and white, or you're going to do, 6 black or white sketches for each one of those. Then you're going to continue sketching with color, and you're going to do them for at least 2 of the ads. So you see you're kind of picking your favorites and you're whittling it down, but you're going to be doing a lot of sketches with your different ads. And then you're going to select 1 or 2 of those ads, and then you're going to bring them into the computer and work on them digitally. Okay, so that's why when we look at the student work, you're going to see how it's all broken down. So this student here picked these 3 ads, and you can see that they made sure to get the entire format. So this ad here was a 2-page spread, so they cut that out, scanned it in. Okay. Then we start working on the thumbnails, black and white and gray. Right? 6 for each of the ads. And you can see that each time you do one of these sketches, you're pushing your abstraction a little bit further. Okay. The idea isn't to repeat 6 of the same sketches. I want you to play around with what an abstraction means. Okay, so in this case, we were really focusing on where the eye travels in the piece, and we're also focusing on the balance because we just talked about that today in class. So you want to make sure that that's what you're capturing from those same ads. Recommendation is pick really simple ads where you can easily analyze the elements. Okay. Stuff with high contrast, a product on a white background, make it really easy for yourself, but pick something that you're going to want to do. So you can see here, started with really, really simple figure-ground relationship, okay? Then moving into more detail, playing around with swapping the color and the contrast. How are you going to bring that visual weight in that same flow, okay? And then playing around also with a little bit more detail and abstraction. Same here, okay? And you can see how there's notes around the piece as she's sketching. And then playing around with cooler color palette. That being said, your color palette doesn't have to exactly match the ad, but the idea is there. Where does the eye flow? Okay, if you want to have the same color palette, that's totally up to you. If you want to push and play around with the colors, you're welcome to do that. Okay, so you can see then we're getting into those color sketches that are much tighter, but you're playing around with more of the color. So she picked her favorite and then she narrowed in. Same here. Okay, capturing the digital process. The sketch is what's been loaded in, and then tracing in Illustrator. Okay, playing around with texture here. Working on this one. So this student chose to work on 2 digitally. Design narrative, and then here are the final pieces. Okay, and they did it side by side. Okay. Oops. I just closed that. You guys want to look at another one? I love this one. This one, I think this link is broken and I need to fix it. But just the balance and visually making. I broke the internet. just the balance and the visual interest of that, it seems just like a really interesting final piece, but you maybe have no idea what it was originally, okay? But the flow is there. Where the eye is directed, the texture and all those different elements are captured there, okay? And then you have other ones that are a little bit more, they have a little bit more detail. I want you guys to try to push your abstraction outside of your comfort zone, okay? I want you to make it so we aren't quite sure what it is we're looking at, maybe, okay? It is something that we have to second guess, okay? But the idea is an abstraction is still a representation of something. It doesn't have to be completely non-objective, okay? But we also want to be able to say, make you question, capture the feeling, capture the essence and the flow. So the student mapped out where the color was going to go, sketches. Okay. And that's obviously very abstracted, but the flow and the color scheme and the general weight is captured. So let's take a look at this really fast. So we have text here and we have text here, right? And a little strip here. That is a part of the ad. That's a part of the visual balance. That was thought about and it was put there for a reason, okay? So remember we said when we put something smack dab in the center, the balance, you know, you have to be careful with how things are balancing. Well, in this case, we have the visual flow of this water. So your eye, and how you have like the value contrast of a little bit of lighter and then the darker corners. So your eye might start here, but maybe when you look at the water, you come up here to the Davidoff logo, and then maybe your eye kind of swirls back down here. And when you, after you're done here, you get right down to this bottom little line of text, okay? So you have to think about that, those areas of text while you're sketching. You can see how the student made sure to put little areas of blocks of space to note that those were there and contributing to the balance. Okay, same here, this area and this area. Okay. So again, everything that you need to include is here. Just like all of the other assignments for this class, you have to include the evaluation checklist, okay? You're going to use your process, your thumbnail sketches, and your narration all goes into your one final document, okay? Let's make sure this one's working. Yeah, okay? And remember, with your evaluation checklist, you have to save it to your computer. Don't fill it out in your browser because it's not going to fill out, okay? Or it's not going to save properly. So make sure you save it to your computer and then you reopen it with Acrobat Pro. Yes, John?
This is a good reason why in real life you shouldn't provide things like this to people. Because I've found in past classes that people, even though they've been told not to fill this out in the browser, will fill it out in the browser, try to save it, and lose all the data.
Right.
And customers, people that
unfortunately, I can't control whether or not a browser opens the PDF in the browser window. So it's, in the case of the class, we have to do it this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just saying, when you're out in real life and you know how to make these interactive forms in our classes.
Or you're saying like just don't make it interactive. Make it so they have to print it out.
Be very careful.
Yeah.
If you're deploying it. I've had my wrist slapped.
So what do you guys think of this assignment so far?
Looks fun.
Looks fun? Okay. It can be a little bit challenging. I think when you guys get into the sketching phase, you want to hang on to that representational image, like what it looks like, what you think it should look like. But I want you to let that go. Okay, focus on the shape and have fun with it, and you know, explore some balance and composition. All right. Any questions about the assignment? Okay, so when is this due? 2 weeks. Exactly. All right, cool. Okay, next up, we have an exercise. And for this exercise, it doesn't need any explanation. You guys have step-by-step instructions, okay? It's type effects. And what you're going to do is you're just going to follow and recreate each of these different type effects, okay? And you're going to turn it in as a PDF. It's actually pretty fun. You get to play around and explore some different tools in Illustrator, and you get to see how you can manipulate text in an interesting way. And it also will teach you a few skills in Illustrator if you guys want to play around with those for this next assignment, right? So let's take a look at our scribblers. Did everybody upload them to the forum? No? Okay, let's do that. Well, some people are uploading their favorite scribbler to the forum. Do you guys have any questions about assignments or software that I can show you guys up here? No? No questions. Okay.
I kind of started out with the Word, and then I immediately thought of Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Ooh, scary.
That's one of my favorites, so I tried to kind of incorporate some of that. And originally when I was doing the sketches, the Word was inside the mouth, but that wasn't clear enough, so I decided to just include it outside, and then I went with colors that really don't go together. I wanted it to be kind of uncomfortable color combination. So
great. What do you guys think of her color choices and line? The word says manacle if you can't read it. What do you guys think? Anybody? Am I going to call somebody? The teeth?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. What do you guys think of her color choice? Giselle, what about you? What do you think of her color? Do you think of a maniac when you think of these colors?
Yeah, I would choose a strong color.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way she did the words also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make the composition more. The words is part of her design.
Exactly.
That green color kind of reminds me of like Halloween time, like kind of a gross green, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But I think it does well for the idea of it, because
Right.
it's just like you can imagine like green goo coming out of the mouth.
Yeah. So if you think of somebody who's maniacal, you think of somebody who has crazy, uncontrollable energy or emotion, right? And so you have this idea that the mouth, which I think is very fitting because we tend to see our emotions in our mouths when we look at each other. So you kind of get this stance like, this mouth is like making this weird maniacal look. And I think the bright green is, kind of creepy, but then also captures the energy. And then you have this thin, really sketchy line that kind of adds to that as well. So I think you did a great job with that one. Good work. Okay. So next up is Kelly. All right, Kelly, you want to talk about this one?
It's hard to see, but it says bold underneath the line.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did this a couple times. The lettering, I just did too small, and so when I started the scribbler, and it was like really extra scribbly, it kind of made it ineligible or not legible.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kept with it. I don't know. I chose like kind of some darker colors because I thought they were more weighty and were therefore more bold.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say.
Okay. Anybody else want to say something about that? Julius, what do you think of bold?
the line.
It's a line.
What do you think of her color choices?
Definitely fits to the line, but I had troubles with scribble as well. I always had like something drawn out and then pressed it and all messed it up. I was sitting there just like,
Yeah, I imagine that you started to tweak what your drawing was going to be a little bit and simplify it or play
Yeah.
around with it.
it was, I don't know, I didn't like it at all.
It's okay. Yeah, Maya?
I really like the color choices. I think they go really well together. And I don't know if your experience with Scribbler was the same as mine, but I relied a lot on happy accidents when
Mhm.
it came to coloring and stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just spontaneous.
So what in particular about the color do you
I
think
don't
says
know,
bold?
I just like the yellow especially, or the yellow orange. I can't really tell
Mhm.
from here. And the purple, I always really like that combination, and it just seems fitting for a lion.
Yeah. Some bold, bright colors, rich in saturation, and then you have reds in here as well. And red is always a really bold, powerful color. So I think it's very fitting. So nicely done, Kelly. Okay. Giselle. Excitement.
Yeah, I tried to fit in the word with this drawing, but it wasn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
It was too messy because the word is too long, and I tried to use that color that like relates to happiness, like purple and yellow, but the orange didn't show much.
Mm-hmm.
Like the purple took over and the blue also. It was too light, and then I put some blue, and then it's too dark.
Okay.
And then I was some fireworks there too, like a star.
Great. What do you guys think? Yes.
I think you can really see that she has understood how to create movement with
Mhm.
lines, because you can really see the guy jumping.
Yeah.
Which is like the legs, they're not straight. They're
Mhm. Exactly. You can see the energy that you put and how you use the line. And I love that you decided to put excellent here, even though like sometimes stack type like that is difficult to read, but I think in the case of Scribbler, it's totally fine because there's something about like these vertical lines that it gives a piece more of an excitement and an upward feeling, like he's actually jumping. If you had put excitement down at the bottom, and maybe it would have had like a different kind of weight to it. But you use these thin lines, nothing is too heavy. You have a lot of white space. It really helps bring the energy and the feeling of excitement. So great work. Oh, you can go ahead.
I like the sparkles. I guess
Yes,
those
the
are
fireworks.
excitement. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a happy little guy. It's cute.
Yeah.
Super cute. Great work. Okay. Bianca. Oh, yeah. I remember you were working on this. And talk a little bit about it?
I actually did a bunch of other ones and I liked them all better, but in the end I was supposed to put the word in with the image, and it kind of just turned out to be that. I kind of like was just frustrated, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
but it turned out to be good. So it's dirty. It's in like the puddle. That's what it says in the bottom. And then I picked a color. It's just a gross color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you guys think? Jonathan, you're
I like
making,
it.
you like it?
Yeah.
What about it?
How is the detail in it?
Mm-hmm. And what says dirty to you?
The color, pretty much. Mostly the
Color.
color.
Uh-huh.
And the way the scribbler stuff is going on with it.
Yeah.
It looks has that unkept.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
How did you achieve that?
So on the scribble, I used a scribbler too for that one, and then did like the feathering, and then just turned down the.
Yeah, it looks dirty. I think even if you couldn't at first tell that this is like a bucket and a mop, like the essence of dirty is there because of the texture and the line and that color. It just looks like you mopped up a mud puddle with a bunch of cat hair in it or something. It's like, bleh. So great work. Looks dirty. Okay, Natalie. Oh, mix it up. Okay, this is spacey.
So, wait, should I talk about it?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, so, I played around with a lot of different words, but, for spacey, I don't know, I kind of wanted to go with something more abstract for Scribbler, because that kind of stuff turned out a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So I started drawing some abstract stuff, and then I added in those little planetary loops to kind of like, not quite do planets, but kind of suggest planets.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was kind of conveyed the whole piece, like not necessarily any piece in it, but like the piece as a whole looked kind of spacey. So.
Okay. All right. What do you guys think? Is spacey conveyed in this piece?
I put the colors down.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about it in particular?
The purple
The purple?
gives it the spacey vibe. It's
Mhm.
almost dreamy too.
Dreamy, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like, it's not. I don't see it as like outer space as much as like that feeling of when you're just spacing out, you know, and you're kind of lost in your thought and your dream, like capturing that. What, Giselle?
I said like floating.
Yeah, exactly. Capturing that kind of essence. Definitely. And I think the abstract shapes, that's a fun thing to play with in Scribbler because it is difficult. So I think you have some really interesting texture, and it kind of captures that feeling of, you know, when you're lost in your thoughts and you're just kind of like certain areas you're kind of going over and over again, and then you have these areas of just like spaciness. So very nice. Good use of negative space. Okay. Julius, you're up.
Yeah, I had trouble with drawing like actual stuff and something.
Does it say ragged?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just use the words and try to make them ragged, torn apart.
Uh-huh.
They are. Oh no, I didn't like Scribbler at all.
Wait, are you a control freak, Julius?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Tends to make.
Straight away you can. There's not even like a bag, like a shortcut.
I know.
I always like started something, and then when stuff didn't turn
I'm
out
so
well,
mean.
I was like, and I hit Control Z, and was like, damn it, it's always so yeah, I don't know. It was really hard.
I know it is. But it was also kind of fun, right?
More or less.
Okay, but I have to say, you would have never made something like this without Scribbler, right?
Yeah.
Right. What do you guys think of ragged?
I love the art getting pulled apart.
Uh-huh.
It's great.
All
Especially
these
with
little-
the way that the lines are flowing.
Yeah. I think that your hand-drawn type, how you chose to create the feeling of something being ragged, you have these uneven edges, things are kind of pulling apart. I think you really captured that. And I think I don't know, what do you guys think about the green color for ragged? I think kind of,
Like natural almost, so
yeah.
brown things are usually.
I think if it was like maybe a smidge more muted, maybe that would have had more of the essence of ragged. Because we think of something's ragged, it's kind of like been worn down, and it's been like, you know, kind of meh, just like buffed away a little bit. So maybe like a slightly more muted tone. I think like if it was any brighter, it definitely wouldn't have worked. But because you kept it a little bit more dull, I think that kind of creates that essence. But you can see how colors and adjectives and our perceptions based upon our world experience, the cultures we grew up in, how everything is can be so subjective sometimes, right? So I think you did a great job with ragged, Julius. Do you do a lot of hand-drawn typography?
Oh, not really.
No? Okay. It's pretty cool. Okay, Guillermo. Oh my god, so cute. Talk about it.
So I did Fluffy, but I only fit Fluff.
Hey, at least you're honest.
So I played with the settings, and I put what's the first setting? The line transparency.
Yes.
Yes, I pulled that down
Mhm.
to a 15, and then the scribbleness I did it at a 1, and the second setting, the middle setting,
The line thickness, maybe? Oh.
makes it thickness.
Yeah, because it seems a little bit thicker. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it just made it a little softer.
Yeah.
I only did one color to make it soft.
Uh-huh.
Cute.
Definitely cute. What do you guys think? Is fluff working?
Definitely.
Yeah. Why is it working?
All the curvy lines and the soft touch.
Yeah. Exactly. I also think that because you chose like a very low line transparency, you know, you get a little bit of a see-through aspect there. So when you think of something that's like fluffy, you tend to be able to has like a quality of transparency, like a cotton ball or, you know, something that's gauzy and soft. And your soft muted pink color is perfect. It's that same, you know, you think that it's gonna feel soft and it looks soft and it goes with your little sheep. So nicely done. Very cute. See, Scribbler is cool. Aren't you guys like, isn't it cool seeing what everybody did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Ellen. Talk about it.
Well, I wanted to create some space and also some motion.
Mhm.
So I actually did 2 drawings of with horses in them, with different words. The other one has the word lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I did one that is more still, the one
Ah,
where
yeah.
there's more motion. And
Great.
this is the one with motion.
Okay. What do you guys think of free? Are we capturing that feeling?
With
What
open space.
Uh-huh. Get some open space. What else?
That kind of hair in the wind thing.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
the way the legs are also feels like flying.
Yep. Exactly. I do think that this line here in particular, if that was gone, maybe it even look a little bit more freeing. It's kind of anchoring this horse down a little bit visually, right? Whereas this guy really looks like he's free. He's like, I'm out of here, sucker. Woo. So maybe in that aspect, it definitely looks free. What do you guys think about using the color black?
It's a little too dark.
A little too dark? What would you suggest, Guillermo?
Some more blue.
Maybe some more blue? Yeah? Green? Is that what someone said? Yeah?
Of course, so it's control.
Yeah. I kind of agree, Ellen. I think that the black, although it's very simple and you're focused more on like the line motion and stuff to create the feeling of free. Lightening up the color might have created more of a lightness to
Yeah,
it.
I tried that, but I didn't like it.
You didn't like-
I
yeah.
tried with a bunch of different colors. I don't like Scribbler at all, especially not the colors. So.
Yeah, totally. I totally get it. Okay, I think you did a great job. Nicely done. Okay, and this is Rochelle. Oh. Oh, you gave us a few. Okay. Are they all this?
Just two.
Two. Okay.
So I guess my word was startled. The top one I just did a cat. That's kind of obvious that they're pretty obvious when they've been startled.
Uh-huh.
And then the bottom one, I actually really struggled on the bottom one. I did 3 different versions of the same kind of thing, and moving them around, and I had a hard time getting. I was trying to make them look a little more like that. It's that knee-jerk reaction that you pull away.
Yeah.
And so originally I just had the word actually, and I didn't like it, and then I went to the person, the figure, just by itself on the side, thinking, you know, it would look like he's pulling away from the rest of the page, and he still just kind of looked like he was doing aerobics. And so then I put the word in there also, and I think that turned out better than the other 2 versions. But
Yeah. So let's start with this one here. What do you guys think about that? Does that seem startled to you?
Yeah, because he's going up like this, right?
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Definitely have that vertical energy of when you get startled. And the way the word is, right? And you have like these really thin lines that help create that the way your letter forms come to a point. You know, I think that like that moment where you're like, that piercing moment where you get scared, you know? Just like, oh. And then, what do you guys think of her cat?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Very cool. Again, that vertical energy with having everything stacked. Yeah, I think it turned out great. All right, so give yourselves a round of applause for doing some really cool stuff, okay? I'm really excited about what you guys are going to do for the rest of the semester after seeing those. Very, very cool. So they're in the forum if you guys want to go back and check them out. And then, so we're going to take a break a little bit early. It's only 6:19, but we kind of blew through some stuff, so we'll have plenty of time for lab. So let's take a half an hour break, and we'll come back here at 6:50. So get something to eat, use the restroom, do whatever. If you want to stay and work, John will stay here. I'm going to go get something to eat so I don't fall over. And then we will spend time working on the digital painting assignment, any exercises, anything you guys want to work on. If you have any specific questions, maybe something you got stuck on this last week while you were working, then kind of jot that note down and capture my attention tonight, and then we'll make sure that we can tackle that, okay? So good work. Thanks, everybody.